Oh,
Sometimes when you got.
oh, I see why.
A couple of years ago, probably more than a couple of years ago.
Yeah, settings. There we go.
Now, once you had it, it's like. Call a meeting to order, 4 o'clock, we have the roll call.
Tyler. Bill Warren,
Present.
Neil Robbins,
Present.
E.G. Garcia, present. Jim Bonker,
Here.
Charlie James.
Present. We have 4. General business, review the agenda, or any additions or changes to the agenda. Have a motion to approve. Move to approve. Second. Motion and seconded, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? We also have the minutes from November 8th, everybody had a chance to review those. Motion, changes or additions to the resolutions. Motion to approve this. Motion approved and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? We have a workshop, our first one, to propose amendments to the community events, language recommended for approval.
Commissioner, we're back to talk about community events just a little bit more. As some of you might remember, we recently changed our insurance providers, and that transition will be complete, starting, in 2024, but WCIA has a program called pre-membership status. And so we got our pre-membership status, which gives us access to their resources before we're fully covered. And we got that kind of at the tail end of this process. But since liability and risk management is such a big part of these community events, we provided them with the code, the draft code that you guys had approved, because that's when we got that status, and we provided that to them for them to review and provide us recommendations. So what we're asking you guys to look at now are reflective of the changes that they recommended post planning commission.
So would it be true to say that these are required by the in order for us to keep our information in place?
No, I wouldn't say that they're required. They're just strongly recommended. They have, so including their recommendations, their individual recommendations from our risk manager representative. They also provided me with a lengthy 158-page toolkit that they put together for other communities doing this exact thing. So a lot of this is kind of reflective of some of those samples that they provided, but also dialogue between me and our risk manager. But none of it's required. It's just strongly recommended.
Okay.
So just for a quick review of our timeline, we started this topic back in May when we adopted the docket. We held a workshop in June and in August on this topic. We had our public hearing on October 11th, which was continued from September. So we actually talked about this topic on the 11th. We ratified the findings, conclusions, and recommendations on November 8th, which was, this body was unanimous that it should be recommended for council approval. On November 8th is when that was done, and then November 8th is also when that language was sent to WCA. So the same day that you guys ratified your findings, conclusions, and recommendation is the day that it was sent to WCIA. And they actually turned it around pretty quickly and gave us our recommendations on November 11th. November 21st is when we had a workshop with City Council, and I explained that situation to them and let them know that there was some additional changes that were going to be recommended from our insurance provider that we would have to review before we did hearing with them. So they're aware that there's going to be some changes to what you guys have approved. So we're here at December 13th, and then we have a public hearing on this with City Council on the 19th, so next Tuesday. So we're hoping to get your guys' thoughts, feelings, and emotions on this today so that we can provide council with the complete, most current version of the text. So since we had our hearing and since the version that you guys recommended that the council adopt, there were some minor edits to the insurance section. So one of the questions that was asked was about drone usage, by Commissioner Mann, and I asked our insurance provider about that, and she provided again quite a wealth of resources about how to address those. And one of them was that we require, aviation liability insurance. So what you'll see in your packet is just a change to make those, the insurance standards a little bit more general in the code language, just basically saying, rather than saying they have to provide us with liability insurance, they have to provide us with insurance in the types and amounts that are recommended from our insurance provider. And there's actually a variety of different types of insurance policies that could be required depending on the activities that are happening. So just making that a little bit more general. They also recommended that we add a section that outlines the potential conditions that we might put on a permit. Our rep felt that the language related to fees and the waiver of fees for activities that are protected by the First and 14th Amendment was a little bit unclear, so she asked for some changes to that. That recommendation actually came after we put your guys' packet together, so we'll get into that language a little bit later because it's not reflected in the packet. But she just felt like it doesn't change the outcome. It really is just verbiage clarity. There was also some language in there to provide for us to require cleanup deposits depending on what types of activities are happening. I don't know that we've actually experienced a situation where we have needed to do that, but as we move forward, just making sure that that language is there and available for us should we find ourselves in a situation that needs to do that. And finally, WCIA recommended adding the violation or penalty section. Now, since this is going to be within our development code, violation of this section would be about the same as any other violation of our development code, but putting it in clear language and putting it in event terminology seems like it was reasonable and really didn't do anything but kind of clear things up for people reading just the section. Next. So this is the change that you won't see in the packet language. It's changing the language from no fee shall be imposed when prohibited by the First and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. And we're proposing that we change that to no fee shall be imposed when an event will be an exercise of the rights protected by the First and 14th. Essentially, she felt like the original language insinuated that the First and 14th Amendment prohibit us from charging fees, which is not accurate. So we just bring that on a little bit. Anybody have any questions about that? Does anybody have any comments or thoughts, feelings, and emotions on the language changes?
Who's that? CIA?
Washington City's Insurance Authority. That's our new insurance carrier.
No, I reviewed all the recommendations and that one seems reasonable. I have don't have any issues with them.
Anybody else comments? Or is there a motion?
I make a motion that we incorporate these changes into the document.
Is there a second?
Second.
First, there's been proposed and seconded. Any discussion? Yes. Are we just talking about the first example was on the screen or the overall approach that's being proposed? The overall. Okay, the whole thing. I'd like to understand, before we go to follow this, how a permit is processed. You talked about the administrator. You have staff. When someone comes in, they want to have they want to have a celebration of Oktoberfest or whatever it happens to be. They come in and they make application. That application goes to the planning department.
So that's how it's set up right now. We are looking at staff and how we don't go to the planning department. And it's disseminated to all of the emergency service providers. So We're adding staff next year. The recreation coordinator, we're also gonna have a coding enforcement staff. We will resource staff, which we will do, our goal is that maybe we probably take it to the and then the system is not good, or that we can use for officer. And that we follow them, and then that person reporting fire, parks. It's.
So you accept an application, then you have to determine that it's complete, and then you send it out to review and comment. Okay, and then those comments come back, and then the staff person you're going to hire will then make a recommendation to you.
No, that, no, that's not how it works. It's actually, it's a process. The only time that I believe as a young administrator, those
So the staff person then would approve this application.
well, and again, the whole point of this exercise was to establish the criteria for the event and the people of the event. He's also been working with staff regarding some policy on how to this part. In terms of, establishing some policy related to for participants, those sorts of things.
So that leads me to my next question. That is, well, maybe it's more of a statement. I understand, working with insurance companies, but sometimes they could get a little carried away with what it is they think you need to do. And sometimes the recommendations are appropriate, and sometimes they're simply over. When I look through these proposed changes, I see a lot of potential, unless there's some metrics developed like for porta potties. Number of people, size of event. When will you develop the metrics that match up with some of these?
It's in process. There's a number of different spaces that are subject matter experts. And then we are putting together those some of them from a variety of resources. And so we are putting together a policy that is behind this document. We're not trying to make it. We're not trying to make it difficult, but rather trying to provide some cycle to protect the public. Literally, what's expressed in
And the completion of all the metrics, the criteria that you would develop would be post existing timeline.
So, yes, I mean, we're working on it literally as we speak. We need to understand that we are inundated with applications, constant. And so, and what we're trying to get away from the city flying by the city.
I understand that because I think this is all well-based. I think the intentions are great. I'm just concerned that if we could just go forward with this, we recommend acceptance and approval without understanding the metrics could be difficult.
So, and again, policy is. They're working to that right now, without policy is adjust itself. Actually, they're working on process working on this. We're actually signing the notice of the requirements, for our that, to actually test drive what we're doing, down to the and what we're producing that for Congress. Right, but the permit for them right now, the permit for them right now down in five. And that's the job.
How many, is it even remotely possible that, you're gonna hire additional staff to process these applications? Are you going to charge a fee for the processing?
So we already, not hiring additional staff. And we trust this, we're hiring additional staff for code enforcement and for recreation. Coordination because these that as a whole city, these have been urgent workloads that can't be handled by our existing staff. All I'm saying is that the thought is that that the processing would be better suited for the duties that they are involved in.
The fee that we pay for these permits offset the cost of these individuals, one and
So no, it's not intended to be cost effective because again, the jobs are probably 80% of those jobs are involved with event company. It just happens to be as because that additional
Go ahead, thank you, good question. Other question?
As you started, comment, the first one we would say to is no conditions as possible to really address the they're there. But the way that the preamble for all this starts was city administrator made condition the influence community members by imposing reasonable requirements into the place. It's to me, there's flexibility within the city administrator, in terms of requiring these things. I think these things are a lot of the best practices, but yet there's the opportunity for using judgment in terms of what's out and what may not be. So that's why I said, I did that as a big issue. Now, concludes it on number of matters.
Oh, but, so I do want to say this, when we're talking about city what they are doing is they're protecting taxpayers of the city. So,
Yes, you're correct.
That's true, and that's really important. But the other side of that is, John, the public comes in, you want a simple application, a fair fee, and quick processing. Not a lot of, what do I need to do? Spell it out.
understood, and that's exactly the line that we are coming to about. It's been challenging for the users as well as staff. Certainly be able to process is simplifying the process. I mean, we had regulars with regular monitors that are like, how do we need it? So the application going online. And it's serious. We have been working with those stakeholders because we do this. We just also want to make sure that we are being reasonably protected attending these events and reasonably cautious from the emergency response.
So we will, the commission will not get a chance to look at the metrics or the criteria that you're going to develop?
The policies, we will not come back to you for approval, if you have interest. We will come back to hear it.
How would those be adopted by rule, or how would you formalize that?
So we will, again, right now, we are providing the documentation, when we have. That we probably will be
What is that? To review that, so that we understand what's going on, and if we have any concerns with regard to the metrics or the policy. I think that would be worth looking. Yeah, and unfortunately, we not have purview. We have no purview. We're sending all of this stuff. And, you know, we think it's great. But in my opinion, I think I would like to know, okay, what backs this up? Do we understand that? Do we think that's okay?
Maybe what we could do is what Amy did once before and send us out that application process and that policy. And if you got comments on it, you could always feed it back to Lisa or Amy, and if they want to adopt those comments, they can make changes in the future if they're issued, or if they're not issued, you can comment prior to being issued. You could probably get that chance, but Amy did that earlier on this very subject on the online application.
I want to say absolutely, we want to be part of the comments. What we don't want to do is fall down. I mean, during the year, we're gonna have a slew of applicants come in. We don't want to bog down the process. Because even as we have, as the Department of Commerce so aptly likes to say, we are flying this plane over building.
In that way, it's not in our docket to go work on, but it's something that we would have the opportunity to comment on.
That's absolutely.
And I think that in if you ask right now.
That's one. Good. I'm glad you did that. Any other discussion? I hear a motion to approve. Move to approve. Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Our next proposed amendment is to the River District landscape regulations. Recommended for approval.
So let me first
Sure.
so this is another case where this was mediated went through the public hearing process. We recommended for it, ratified it on conditions. We took it to city council, actually had a hearing for it on December 5th. And just prior to the computer, even though prior to the hearing, we told the advised us that they would like to choose from the language that they put. And so they presented it to the city council, and the city council was given determined that they would like to amend the proposed revision back to you. And so they concluded the deliberation to the document. In order to give you all an opportunity to comment on the proposed revisions to the ordinance. So with that, Mike Carroll is here to present on behalf of
I'm actually here just for the. So absolutely. So we've gone through the process that we've outlined. One of the things we have is one concern, and I'll go through the process. So we're requesting under the, spacing and location of street trees, that the 5 foot minimum from underground utilities, ducts and non-irrigation pipes be stricken from that. And I'll go through it in a lot more detail. I think the overriding, philosophy that Greenstone has had, and certainly the city has had through the comp planning process over in the history of the city, is to try and get as many trees as we can in the neighborhood. And we're trying to, as we do that, and try and come up with language that facilitates that, working with staff to try and get a definite process that those designing those trees in and those staff members are reviewing those, know what we're working against and get plans in place. So basically, I'll show you an example. Our concern is that there's exactly 10 feet between the sewer and the water line center line. And because lots are getting narrower, we're sliding a tree in right between those. And so this is a very specific example, and you can see that we've got the sewer and the water line shown with the tree on the right-hand side in the planter strip between the sewer and water line. And so that gives you 5 feet, but it's not, so it's 5 feet between those lines, but in the field, it could be, if our tree planter misses by a foot or something like that, they don't know exactly where they are. So we're requesting, our intent is to get them between the sewer and water line, not plant them on top, but we can't survey the trees. And so we're trying to make sure that we all understand that we live in a world that is a little flexible when we're trying to plant trees. Trees are natural elements. By code, the sewer and water lines are 10 feet apart, but we believe that the tree, there should be some flexibility in terms of where the tree can be located. Go ahead, next one. Just as a way of validating this, 90% of tree roots are in the top 3 feet of soil. Water and oxygen is available in that area. Certainly in a lawn area, that's where the water is. And so we've all experienced trees that have more surface roots, and you're fighting with them in terms of lawn mowing and things like that. The city has gone through a detailed process in terms of mitigating impacts on things like sidewalks and curbs, and so there's some watering and some root barrier guidelines to protect the infrastructure as well. So we're keeping, so generally the tree roots, most of the tree roots are in the top 3 feet. The utilities are below 4 feet. So next one. So gas and electric is behind the lot, sewer and water line for each home, depth of 4 feet plus by code. It's below 90% of the tree roots. We already have spacing for fire hydrants and street lights, and driveways. And so when you start to add up all these things, if we have a 40-foot lot, we have a 24-foot driveway, and we have a street light there, and we have utilities, we start to run out of room to plant trees. And so the goal that we've maintained over, forever is to try and get at least one tree on everybody's lot. Because that creates a great streetscape, creates great community, and makes it maintainable as well. And so the intent is to avoid all these conflicts, but also get trees in the community. So one of the things I presented at council just to remind everybody why we have trees, why trees are important. There's a U.S. Forest Service study and many other studies that said, for instance, that a single tree can add over $7,100 to the value of a home. Mature trees can add an average of 10% of the property value. Certainly, you can see that in Spokane, the South Hill property values for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of mature trees on the South Hill. And certainly within Liberty Lake, you're starting to see that occur as well. Neighborhoods with mature trees that have been successful, the values are higher in those neighborhoods. Reduce urban heat island effect of the shades, the more trees, cooler it is, 20 to 45 degrees lower on the sidewalk temperature, so it really makes a more comfortable neighborhood when you have more trees. A more walkable community, safety, protection of pedestrians from vehicles, having a tree between the curb and the sidewalk creates that buffer between the vehicles and pedestrians. And also a tree canopy and a great urban forest slows people down. So the bigger the tree, the slower the traffic. And improve wellness, body, mind, and spirit for those folks that live in those neighborhoods. So you want that. Last one. So this is an example of some new trees going in the neighborhood. You can see what the green that we have along the street, that's where we have the plant trees, and there's utilities that we're avoiding, but that's kind of an example of what we're working with. So we work really carefully with staff to try and get the right answer when we're submitting plans. Staff does a great job of evaluating every street tree plan that comes in front of them to make sure that we're meeting the requirements in terms of spacing, types of trees and things, and avoiding utilities as well. So it's a really great collaborative process that historically has ended up with great neighborhoods with great trees. We just want to continue that as the lots get narrower and get more challenging. So we would appreciate approval of that change and send it back to the council for approval. Thank you very much for your time.
Any questions?
You approve it. Sure.
I'm not sure what to say.
It's on page, it's way in the, it's just in the.
It's only the, so this
There's only.
proposed change was that we add 5 foot minimum separation from underground utilities, ducts, and non-irrigation pipes. And now that's proposed to be stricken. They're afraid it means too conflicted.
Too restricted.
Any questions?
No, this will be too restrictive, the proposed change will be less restrictive.
Yeah.
And that's it?
That's it.
That's the only thing?
That's it.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
The rest we've already ratified.
Who is this? Straight. Okay. The other question I had is, on the, interior parking area landscaping. Interior parking area landscaping. It is on, number 3. So I guess it's E3. And it looked like it deleted the entire standard related to setbacks from residential. Did I read that wrong? You have that big section tree selection that's deleted.
So what happened here was,
Almost, yeah.
so Greenstone proposed to amendments to be more consistent with the amendments we've already done within, city development code related to, interior parking lot. We have, back in, I want to say it was 2019, 2020. Yeah, because we actually got hung up because of, COVID on the project. I think we finished it in 2021, yeah. We amended, our landscape code to be less restrictive. We had, what was required under our old code was, very heavy in terms of the landscape. We didn't always work. We wanted to meet the intent of the landscape, code, but provide the designers with more flexibility to try and make it work within the site. And so, we think that that's, this very much parallels, as I recall, this parallels what we do in city development.
Okay.
So it's moving more in the direction of consistency with what the city development is.
The other question was on, three, three, four. I, looks like a whole section was deleted with this residential buffer. This is perimeters adjacent to interstate 90, it talks about, you go to A. And then there's a section called other document. I'm sorry, so it's page, 3 and 7.
So I think I can give you a broad overview on.
Other buffer, you leave the whole section about the mixed residential zone buffering. And it refers to another section of development setbacks. And I have no idea what those other. I mean, I can see what was deleted, it's very specific. But then it is called other buffering, which I don't even know what that is, because it's referring to something else that we don't have. Are you looking at that at all?
No, see what that-
On page 37.
Go on. Talking about mixed residential zone buffering. It might move from the.
What's going on, the moving part there, I got.
But is it replaced by this thing called other buffering?
Basically, it was. So mixed residential is there. And if I have my presentation from previous, so there are very limited locations where there's a buffering between mixed residential and residential. So there's very little interface in that, and so we determined that, we requested that change because there really is very little difference between mixed residential and the residential as it's developing out in Riverside. And so eliminating that makes more consistent the landscaping between those different zones and it makes it actually more consistent with the city code by eliminating that specific buffer.
The other buffer is not.
So reading the mixed residential zone buffering. The paragraph is getting rid of it because you make it more consistent.
It's a residential zone, it's actually almost an oxymoron. Seriously, the mixed residential zone is principally a residential zone. And you're gonna buffer the principally residential zone from the residential zone.
Yeah, it's just a purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And this background, the reason it was in there is that when we originally put it together, we kind of envisioned it to be a little bit different than how it's being developed now.
just one other comment, just not a typographical on the page.
Just so I'm clear, so the only thing that we're deciding on today is what's highlighted in yellow.
That is correct, we've already.
We've already wrapped.
All of your development.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the shade.
But I will say this,
It just did on,
I will,
not even be read on, right? None of that is today's stuff, it's what's on yellow on page 3-11.
That's it?
that's it.
I was confused because I thought the whole red line was.
No, that's what's being given to the, so that for their workshop, so they can see what the items are.
The one other thing I will say though, is that staff,
I just saw a red line. I thought that was a shade. That's normally what you were saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the one thing I will say is that, we thought, that this addition by putting the street trees, in from underground utilities was worthwhile. So we wanted to, we were going to make the same revisions to, city development code. And however, because we want to keep them consistent, because again, back in 20, this was done in 20, oh, street trees was done in 2019. We tried to get, street tree sections all consistent. We think the consistency is more important than adding this to our city development code. So we would, this isn't new, we want to leave it on the city development code.
I apologize for my comments. I was.
Not,
Okay, all right, you're good.
just as a note, not a criticism, but it's a note. I mean, the lead-in memo from Lisa told us to be looking at pages 3 to 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it probably could have been clarified, say, go look at page 11 on your document.
The highlighted section. Just pick the one page. That's it. Just pick one page.
I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying in the future, because I've never seen us do this before where we had to go back and work on things that we've already read about.
No, this is,
So
it's a unique situation, and again,
Okay, enough.
My thought was, when I first saw this, was I'm gonna send you packing, okay? But I have a question. So your landscape plans, when you submit, if you want the flexibility where the trees are going to go, you're going to show where the water line is and where the sewer line is. So that when the staff looks at it, they understand the need for flexibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So our plans, and I think now that the city's code is like, these are the things we need to show up on the landscape plan. So one of the things we do on our landscape plan is we say, this is the mature height and width of the tree, so that the staff knows what we're expecting the spacing to be. Because that drives the spacing of the tree. We show the sewer and the water line. So we don't show driveways because driveways aren't in yet, but we cheat to try and make sure that we leave like 30 feet or so of driveway. We don't put street trees on property lines because the trees have to be somebody's, not shared by 2 people. We show when we do it, we show where fire hydrants are and the spacing off of fire hydrants that we stay away from them. So where street lights are, and we show clearly front. I think that covers generally all of that. So the idea is, from our standpoint, drawings are a communication tool. We're communicating to staff as best we can. This is what we're proposing, and we're trying to get the best communication tool as possible in front of staff so they can go, oh, we get what you want and it's good to go, or we have these minor changes. And so we've been working on getting it right, on both sides. And so, this is all a collaboration between us and staff, and I think it's working really well.
Is it true?
no.
When you request modification from already adopted ordinance, the entire ordinance is up for discussion? Is it opening the fire?
It can potentially, yes, it can potentially.
You know that, right? When you ask for modification for something that's been approved, you risk opening the whole Pandora's box up. Well, I'm not saying that what you have approved is a problem. I'm just saying,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
okay. Any other discussion?
I move we approve as presented here with the yellow highlights on page 3-11.
Is there a second? Second. Has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. We go to Secretary's report.
Meeting, so thank you for your service, Rick. You're welcome.
Thank you.
This
you've got a granddaughter that's, performing, so
Yes.
I understand.
So before we get to the secretary's report, let's ask for some citizen comments.
Oh, okay,
We
you have citizen,
have a citizen, online, Tom Solver, and we have a citizen in the, audience, Dean Herschel, and both of these citizens are soon to be planning commission members. Okay. So, would you like to say anything?
any comments, sir?
Very interesting scenario. It's the first time I've seen the planning commission who openly discuss topics that have been presented in depth before. And I see that you all have been very well prepared for the information that's presented. So it looks like there's a lot of work before you get there. To make things happen.
And I will apologize in advance for the length of our presentation. Tom, do you have any words for us? Oh, no,
Former-
this is the best that we've had all year. You do not?
Thank you for your comments. Former councilman, or do you have any, comments?
Just to thank you for all that you're doing, and I'll second the motion, applauding Richard's service as the chair of the planning commission. Great job. I'm gonna miss you when I come back.
Thank you, sir.
So secretary's report, so, I did this to myself because I could have had the secretary's report first to announce that the mayor did have interviews, on Monday, for new planning commission members. And Jim is going to be reappointed to his position for another, 3 years. And so, subject of course to council ratification. Well, it's 3 years, yeah. Yes, it is. You were filling out a term.
Oh. Okay.
So it's a 3 year, it's 3 years. And Tom is also going to be appointed to one of our vacant positions. And I don't know, I have to look at the timeframes on it, subject of course to council ratification. He is going to be, appointed as one of our adjunct community, members, he'll be the first adjunct seat. And then we also had Troy Molinex. So some of you may know Troy because he used to work for the city of Lake long before me. So he's waiting to come back, and so he's going to be our second adjunct. And he actually lives 2 blocks south of Square. So he's area of city inspector. And that is all I have for you. I thank you all for, I know that this has been a pretty, busy and hectic year, and I promise you that it's going to get more effective coming year. So we're gonna be digging in, we're gonna be starting to dig into, population projections, some of the housing stuff. Some of the, we're gonna have to be working on, public engagement and et cetera, and some of the, aspects of the comprehensive plan update. We'll probably be setting the table for, maybe a kind of a broad overview of what we need to do for the comprehensive plan in January or February. And, we also will be looking to, hire a consultant to overhaul our sign code. And they will be working very closely with you. So we've got some exciting projects coming up next year. One of the things I will say, and we'll talk about this more in the coming year, but, with the heavy lift for our periodic comprehensive plan update, I think, we should be talking early about the possibility of having a moratorium on annual conference voting while we're looking at the periodic update, to give us the capacity. And also maybe as we get farther into the work program for the comprehensive plan, we may want to do something about it, we need to look out to get through that process. And that's something that will be decisions that you all will have the opportunity to make, discussions to be had, if there's some food for thought. And that's all I have. I think we can give everyone very, very thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner reports, commissioners? Anyone? I'm just quick, thank you to our police department. I did a ride along with our police department, which any citizen has a right to do, by the way. I'm chair of the Civil Service Commission for the police department, and did a ride along 2 weeks ago. You would be most impressed with these young men and women and their enthusiasm, their passion about what they do. I was most impressed. I rode for about 4.5 hours. It would have been longer, but we stopped the DUI and they had to take them to jail, which I couldn't go with them to do that. So I rode with another officer and he had to go interview a rape victim. And I couldn't go along with that, so we sent me home. But you would be most impressed with what they do and how hard they work at being visible in our community and doing the right thing by people. I was most impressed. That's good enough. Yeah. I was really impressed. So you would recommend it? I would, if you have to do a background check, but the form to fill out, it's actually online. And we'll do a background check and unique citizen and you're allowed. And it's well worth believing what these young men do by themselves in their vehicles will astound you. It was just amazing. Any other comments? I will hear a motion to adjourn. Move to adjourn. A motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas.
One final thought for everyone. When, at a January meeting, the chair, vice chair, the chair and vice chair are up for election, plus we also have, only 2 members on our design committee, so it's a thought whether or not they're completely participating in the design committee. We have previously actually had a total of 4 members, because we have to kind of get everybody together, and so it's only as needed.
Once a month? No, it's not even that often. I've been on a design review since I've been on a mission, and we've had maybe in 4 years, 10 times, maybe.
Yeah, again, what we do try and do is we do try and consolidate cases. And, but they're very quick meetings, they're fun, it's a good opportunity to kind of, have some feedback into the design. And we have pointed out, all of us, our architectural design standards are very dated. And, and that's something that I think probably won't add, we probably won't be able to follow after we get the process. But I think it is something that is very worthwhile and we will our development of the problem. Thank you all. Thank you.
Happy New Year, happy holiday. I say, what's she talking about? 3 through 12, I was 3 through 12.